So, ihr Lieben, schauen wir doch mal, ob die Nachrichten etwas über das Treffen mit dem Militär berichten. Nein, aber der zweite kontanische Satellit ist im Weltraum. Chairman Leon Malenev addressed the world announcing the second successful satellite launch from Rostanur Air Base, which has now reached low Earth orbit. The chairman praised the scientists and EUCOSM that allowed the country to reach space a second time. The functionality of the satellite was confirmed when radio contact was established after deployment. So, jetzt gibt es ja einige Berichte und einige Dinge zu entscheiden. Schauen wir doch erstmal nach Lakehaven. H3 highway nears completion. The H3 highway running from Lakehaven to Avery is mostly complete, with final preparations being made for the opening. Regrettably, there have been some issues around the workers' rights law with Taurus Holding. Nonetheless, the project will be completed on time thanks to the administration's decisive actions. With Avery about to be connected to the country's biggest port and Lakehaven with a large highway, people in the region are expected to have better access to jobs, welfare and other services. The H3 will also improve trade links with Agnolia. Hurrah! Young Swords militants arrested. The Anrika police force has organized a raid today after reports from the Swedish Intelligence Directorate about suspected Young Swords activity in Anrika. The police were ambushed during their raid of the suspected building. In the firefight that broke out, 4 militants were killed and 10 more have been arrested in the aftermath. Unfortunately, an officer was also killed during the fighting. Bericht in der Hauptstadt. Die Bildungsreformen. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the massive overhaul to the education system is progressing very well. All schools in Sordland will collaborate in the reduction of hours taught in citizenship, solism and nationalism subjects. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education. Other changes are also happening in the curriculum. Pedagogical improvements like improved teacher-student relations and the emphasis on critical thinking development have begun all across the entire country. Minister Walder reports solid progress on many fronts, with few schools delaying the transformation on political grounds. Gut. So, wählen. Was möchte wählen? Trade Talks. Und das haben wir auch mit Agnolia, nicht wahr? Ja, machen wir das mit denen mal zuerst. Sordland one's flight from Horsord to Starport took 3 hours, but went very smoothly. We were about to touch down. David left his seat and came over while Simon was enjoying his newspaper. Looks like we are about to land, Mr. President. I looked outside. I could see Helgeland, the island in between Valksland and Agnolia. So many conflicts over a small piece of land. The island can barely sustain itself without outside help. I would do anything to protect the motherland? No. It's a strategic position. I was just thinking the same. Yeah. Thousands of people died fighting for it. I wonder if it was worth it. I suspect it will be one of the topics that Mr. van Horten will bring up as a bargain chip. We must be careful. Helgeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community is yet to recognize it. For a good reason too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Valksland, especially because of the support of United Contana and CSP. I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship with Valksland. I agree, we should try to do our best to stay in the middle ground. Simon folded his newspaper, got up from his seat and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Helgeland, we need to be careful with the additional requests. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural market. In return, they are promising cash flows and investments, especially in the Angland region. It's not hard to guess why. Precisely. Agnolia immigrants in our Angland region make up a good chunk of the region's economy now. During the initial negotiations, they've brought up the topic of immigration many times. The fact that we have relaxed our immigration laws will help tremendously. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. The pilot made an announcement that the descent had started. David and Simon went back to their seats. I took another look outside the window. I could see Stalport, the capital city of Agnolia. The large dockyards of the city and the canals appeared closer as our descent continued. Stalport was certainly a fitting name due to the Stal, meaning canal. Due to Stal, meaning canal, okay. A couple of minutes later, we finally touched down. The plane parked. I took a final look out from the window. The welcoming ceremony from Agnolia was waiting along the red carpet outside. After the guards made their way out, I exited the plane. Wave to the crowd. There were many camera flashes. I started to make my way downstairs. Prime Minister van Horten was nowhere in sight. Instead, I was greeted by the foreign minister. After handshakes and a couple of photos, I moved to the car where Serge was waiting to make our way to the office of Prime Minister. Good day, sir. I hope the flight was comfortable. Thank you, Serge. I got in the car and we made our way through the foreign streets. Our convoy was protected by Swedish and Agnolian guards in the vehicles. We began driving by the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the ships and machinery looked old. The city itself looked very grey and grim. The buildings had a touch of Romberg's famous monarchian architecture, with a mixture of Swedish signature domes and the older ones. We were now on the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. Looks like they are not too happy to see you, sir. Serge pointed at the crowd that gathered on both sides of the street. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held signs written in Swedish. Sordland must pay a debt to Agnolia. You know, I never knew Agnolians were so ungrateful. Not everyone sees a great leader like you every day. Ja gut, das bezieht sich sicherlich auf diese Handelsbeziehungen, die zugunsten von Sordland gehen. There have been so many issues in Sordland. I don't know if I can call myself a great leader. Sir, humility is important, but not in this case. They were always scared of Sordland's potential, and now they are afraid that a lion leads Sordland. They are afraid of you. Oh god. The convoy started slowing down. We have arrived. The car continued through the gates while the security vehicles went the other way. We finally came to a stop in the front of the door. Serge left the car and opened the car door. I exited and began walking to the door where dozens of press and the Prime Minister were waiting for me. I saw the Prime Minister much more clearly as I neared the door. He was shorter than I thought. Martin van Horten. Became the leader of the centrist Neurist Democratic Union of Agnolia. Also Christdemokrat könnte man sagen. Yeah, he promised to find new trade partners and replaced old unjust treaties with fairer ones. Da haben wir das. Und er hat den Handel mit Acacia und Lesbia intensiviert. During Van Horten's term, Agnolia's steel production greatly increased and the volume of Agnolian exports to Western Mercosur countries doubled. And he started a new initiative to discover new natural resources in the Markian Sea. Das führt zu diesem Konflikt mit Walksland. Following the discovery of oil in the territorial waters of Agnolia, he ordered the building of a massive fleet of oil tankers and drilling ships. Mr. President, welcome to Agnolia and to the beautiful city of Stalport. It's great to be here. He reached out for a handshake. The press surrounding us had been waiting for this moment. Overpower. Shake hands. We shook hands and smiled at the cameras as the press took pictures. He gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us inside. I would like to present you with a gift as a sign of friendship in between our countries. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass box in her hands. It contained a single parchment inside. This here is one of the first treaties written in between Sordland and Agnolia, just like the one you've prepared with Mr. Wishy before my term. May it mark the renewal of our friendship today as well. Very good. Our photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the Prime Minister. Was können wir ihm jetzt geben? Wir können eine der originalen Kopien der ersten Verfassung von Sordland geben. Wir können ihm einen sordischen Welpen geben, obwohl wir wissen, dass er Angst vor Hunden hat. Oder ein verziertes zeremoniales Schwert, das aus sordischem Stahl hergestellt wurde. Warum sollten wir ihm Kopien der ersten Verfassung geben? Aber das mit dem Hund muss man, glaube ich, nicht machen. Das ist halt so eine versteckte Drohung, sag ich mal. Das Schwert mit dem Stahl ist natürlich, es geht ja hier um Stahlhandel, soweit ich weiß. Aber was würde das denn implizieren, wenn wir ihm die Kopie der Verfassung geben? Ich glaube, wir geben ihm das Schwert, oder habt ihr da Meinungen dazu? Any opinions on the gift we should hand to Martin? Scheinbar nicht. Dann werde ich das Schwert nehmen. Our gift was an ornamented ceremonial sword made with swordish steel. Ah, an excellent specimen. This must be hundreds of years old. It looks like this is swordish steel as well. Very fitting, thank you. The cameras flashed once again. Let's go to my office, follow me. I followed him and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. It was a room of wooden minimalist decoration. It was far more modest than I expected. We sat down. He leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh! Thankfully done with the ceremonies. I'm not fond of these either. It's one of the tougher parts of our job. Ich weiß ja nicht. He got up from his chair and moved over to the bar. There were many varieties of liquor. Would you like a drink? Water is fine. As you wish. He poured the drinks and gave mine to me before sitting down again. Direkt zum Geschäft kommen. Ein wahrer Gentleman. Can't you control the protests? Ja, sehr freundlich. Wir versuchen ihn mal wohlgesonnen zu halten. This is how we do things in Agnolia, Mr. Rayne. I appreciate the kind words, but flattery alone won't sway me this day. First of all, I would like to say that I've been watching your recent changes to the immigration policy. I'm glad that you've decided to keep it relaxed. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economical development, and we believe that very much in Agnolia. It is reassuring to see Sordlands move into a more modern direction. Thank you. He took a sip from his vodka. So tell me, Mr. Rayne, is Sordland a reliable trading partner to Agnolia? Of course, you can trust Sordland. Very good. He paused for a moment. It was a good move to start building the highway. Overall, this will positively affect our trade. Well done, Mr. Rayne. No need for flattery. I give credit when it's necessary. Van Horten leaned back further in contemplation. Let's change the course of our nations. Wir fragen erstmal ganz offen. What's going to be? First of all, if we shake hands on it, this agreement is going to be really beneficial for both of us. We should be able to solve your recession in no time with the investment and money flow coming from us. This is, as you know, on top of the reduced tariffs for trade in between our countries. Of course, in return, as discussed between my people and your people before, you will allow us privileged access to your agricultural market. You will be buying steel from us for a higher price, which is a small price to pay, really. That is the deal. What do you say? Budget nochmal -1. Lohnt sich das? Das ist die Frage, ne? Macht sich das bezahlt? Also, Sie wollen investieren. Sie wollen vergünstigter Lebensmittel kaufen und wollen teurer Stahl verkaufen. Ich weiß nicht, ob die Investments sich so bezahlt machen, dass wir nochmal einen Punkt weiter in die Schulden gehen sollten dafür. Ich denke, wir sollten versuchen, dass wir auf Augenhöhe handeln. Dann bin ich dafür zu haben. This is not beneficial for Sordland. You went through all this effort to come and say no to me? You were throwing many months of work down the drain. This is a mistake. Also ich will natürlich den Handel nicht vollständig ablehnen. Das ist ja auf jeden Fall nicht der Fall. Ich kann den höheren Preisen nicht zustimmen. Der Stahl ist nicht so viel wert. We prefer to continue with the current steel deal. Versuchen wir es mal. We believe that Sordland has been given an unfair advantage for too long because of the previous agreements. We can no longer accept this. Our people believe that we have long been overshadowed by Sordland. I'm here to fix that with a beneficial trade for both of us nonetheless. Is there no room for discussion? We don't want to lose our cooperation with Sordland. Maybe I can agree with the old prices. I will offer an alternative for the sake of our history together. Don't do it? Don't do what? What do you mean? As you know, Helgeland has been long contested between Agnolia and Valksland. You know how the international community does not recognize our rightful claim on the island, including Sordland. Wouldn't it be good that Sordland finally announces the recognition of Helgeland as Agnolian territory? If you do that, we'll have a deal. Das wiederum bringt uns in eine diplomatisch gefährliche Lage, weil natürlich Valksland dann sauer wird. Und Valksland kann die Graue Straße dicht machen mit ihrer Flotte. Und dann wird unser Handel massiv leiden. Das ist zu viel des Guten. Ich will einen Deal auf Augenhöhe, das ist alles. Sordland is rejecting a trade deal that rights the wrongs of the past and doesn't recognize its partners' territories. Yet we are the ones asking for too much. I took you for someone you were not, I suppose. But you are no different than your predecessors. Warum kann man denn nicht auf Augenhöhe einfach einen Handel machen? You're in no position to judge me. I've made my decision. Be careful with your words. Kann ihn das zu Rumburg drängen? There's nothing else to talk about. Huh. Ja, will ich ja auch nicht. Ich will jetzt den Handel nicht platzen lassen jetzt. I've made my decision. I thought this could be the start of a new era, but apparently not. Well then, he stood up from his chair. We must continue the official program. As you know, we will pay a visit to our founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards, we will move on to the state diner. I won't be joining. Nein, da gehen wir natürlich mit. As soon as we left the office, I briefed Simon and David on the outcome of the meeting. The rest of our stage trip was full of fake smiles, handshakes, incredibly long ceremonies, and even longer meetings between our ministers and their counterparts. When we came to the end of the trip, the way back was mostly silent. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down on Holsort. Das war jetzt irgendwie nicht das, was ich da erwartet habe. Hegel, schau mal, Valksland meldet sich. Van Horten is playing with fire. Yesterday morning, Chancellor of Valksland Hegel delivered a press conference in Helm about the escalating tensions in Helgeland. During the press release, he said Agnolia's unlawful occupation of the islands will not stop us from doing whatever it takes to protect our people living in Helgeland. He heavily criticized and condemned Prime Minister Van Horten, saying, "We are dealing with an illegal occupation force which doesn't refrain from entering our territorial waters without asking our permission. Van Horten is playing with fire, and if he's not careful, he might get burned," said Hegel. Geopolitico will be watching the developments closely. We failed. Dramatisch. Was bedeutet das für die... Quatsch, bedeutet das für die Beziehung? Neutral, weiterhin. Oder waren sie positiv? Ne, war glaube ich neutral. Ja, lasst mich nochmal, bevor wir da reingehen, wollte ich nochmal eben nach Wählen schauen. Die waren da irgendwie so komisch eingestellt, ne? Wie komme ich da denn jetzt hin zu wählen? Presidential Republic, governed by Vedic Nationalist Party of Nurist Socialism. The brutal civil war caused a massive refugee crisis, das wissen wir. Anti-Akasianism. After Victor Smollett became president in 1943, the country started looking like a one-party state, famous for oil, gold and diamonds. Has the weakest economy in eastern Macopa. And a weak civil rights record with no political freedoms. One of the worst places in Macopa to start a business in. Trotzdem sind sie Mitglied in der Wirtschaftsvereinigung. Ja, und der, wartet mal, der Typi, wie war der nochmal drauf? Victor? Nationalismus ist mit sozialistischem Charakter. Klingt irgendwie seltsam. Seized the assets of multimillionaires, censored the press, blamed the royalists, liberals and Democrats. Despite being an anti-millennialist before the Civil War, he brought Wählen closer to United Qatar. Das war das Seltsame, which helped him bring the country out of recession, with the financial aid coming from the CSP. Naja, schauen wir mal, was hier passiert. Sordlands 1's flight from Holzort to Wrocław take approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulences, I managed to sleep a little. Along with Simon and David, we landed at the international airport of the capital city of Wählen. Our aim here was to finalize the trade deal drafted in between Sordland and Wählen. Shortly after our plane landed, the door opened and the sun blinded me. For a moment I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of the red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. The marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. Wir gehen mal ohne Geste weiter. At the bottom of the stairs, Victor Smollett was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters on the side waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses, and his attire was a regular suit contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. Mr. President, welcome to Wrocław. He immediately motioned for an embrace. We hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Thank you for inviting us. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We will take the jeep for a tour. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat, and I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, the soldiers saluted again. Victor Smolok saluted back. Do nothing. My security detail and Victor's security detail started following us immediately along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city center to see the opening of a statue. Whose? It's mine, of course. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather until we started making our way into the city center. And almost every corner there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly enough, every single street that we took seemed completely empty. Is Wrocławitz always this empty? I had the locals close down their businesses because of your visit, so that you can enjoy the city more. We are. We arrived at the city center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind fences, and they were waving both Sordland and Welt flags. Victor waved back at them. My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I'm sure you are delighted to see. A man came closer to the fences and started yelling at Victor. With my limited knowledge of the Vajak language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Yeah, very supportive. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers showed up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is up. Today will be a good day for the reveal. What will happen to this man? The one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. Let's focus on the event. We took our places in front of the statue. With a drum roll, the statue of Victor Smolok was uncovered. The statue was done pretty well, except that he was made more masculine. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. Excellent statue, very lifelike. What do you think? Very lifelike. Glad you appreciate the art behind it. Join me for a walk. I followed him through the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the streets. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Wait for him to pay. He simply took the 2 strudels and didn't pay anything. Ja, dann machen wir das mal. I put my hand on my wallet and brought up some money to give the vendor. Hold up, your money doesn't count here. I got this. He handed the money to the street vendor. The cameras flashed again. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way into the main building, made from ivory-colored stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent main building from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On both sides, to the upper levels, guards stood with the traditional outfits of the old Vajak kingdoms. Sehr seltsamer Kollege, ja. We finally reached the office of the President of Welt. The door closed behind us. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colors, and various jewels attached to different artifacts of old. As it was customary in Welt, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk about our trade deal. Nicken. But before that, he clapped his hands twice. Bring the Kisha. A few assistants immediately entered the room, carrying a large ornamented Kisha. the well-known smoking instrument originating from Velen. Okay, eine Shisha. They immediately lit it up and the room was filled with the smell of tobacco. He annihilated the smoke and handed me the Kisha. I don't smoke. Your loss, it's the best tobacco in the land. He took another puff, filling the room with more smoke. So, Mr. President. Bah, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? Nee, du nicht. Very well, Mr. President. Tell me, what do you really think about Rumburg? Ja, Rumburg. They are a threat that needs to be dealt with. Barking dog doesn't bite. They have their needs and their own agenda. Ja, halten wir uns bedeckt. Yes, they do, but their ambitions are over Velen and Sordland. We must be careful. I assure you their time will come. I would rather prevent further conflict in the region. You know as well as I do, Mr. President, they are coming whether we like it or not. They are the aggressors, not us. For now, I have something else in mind. I'm listening. He clapped his hands again. Two assistants came in the room with a map of the border regions in between Velen and Sordland. He pointed at the border. Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. I know that they are also a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist in my borders. So I will hit them with all the might of Velen. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I call it Operation Bear Trap. I do not support any military actions this close to our borders. He lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here's the deal. I will give you the best trade deal in the region. You will give me your assistance crushing the terrorists on both of our borders. Nein, das werden wir nicht tun. This is not just Velen's problem, this is also Sordland's problem. These terrorists are doing anything they can to destabilize the region. Ja, wenn du sie nicht unterdrücken würdest, dann wären sie auch keine Terroristen. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74s. We traced them back to Rumburg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we also found that similar shipments are going to Sordland. Davon wissen wir schon. Yes, Mr. President, you see, this is not just Velen's problem. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment projects and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the terrorists in my country. Könnt ihr das nicht alleine regeln? Oder es gibt internationale Auswirkungen. Ja, gehen wir mal international. To help with international ramifications, I will protect my country. I don't care what they say. What I want from you in return for all the money and the resources is a joint operation in between our armies against BFF. I took a moment to think about it. Also ich bin da grundsätzlich dagegen. Ich will die Sorden, also wir haben eine große sordische Minderheit in Belgien. Ich möchte gerne mit der sordischen Arbeiterpartei nicht zusammenarbeiten, wenn die nach der Verfassungsänderung ins Parlament kommt. Von daher will ich mich da mit denen überhaupt nicht verscherzen und ich habe auch keine Lust, dass hier die Situation sich weiter destabilisiert in dieser Region. Von daher werde ich das ablehnen. Wir haben ja auch extra beschlossen, dass die Grenzen offen bleiben sollen. und all solche Dinge. Und der Präsident hat selbst diese Episode gehabt, als er Soldat war, wo er blüdische Flüchtende über die Grenze gelassen hat. Also kein Deal. Wait, Mr. President, wait. Normally I would offer anything else, but I like you. Here's my final offer. When the operation starts, with you or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Sordland. We just want you to support the operation, even if you do not join. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country and you will have your deal. Simple, isn't it? So what do you think? Nee, es bleibt dabei. Das sind halt für ihn Terroristen. Und ich meine, die BFF gibt's und die zum Teil sind die auch bewaffnet und führen Anschläge durch, das stimmt schon. Aber das ist halt so eine logische Folge irgendwie dieses Bürgerkriegs und der Unterdrückung, die hier stattfindet in seiner Diktatur. Also ja, ich glaube, wir brauchen das nicht mehr eine Republik zu nennen, auch wenn das so auf dem Wappen steht. Kein Deal. That's unfortunate. I thought we could be friends, but you decided to leave Velen alone by itself. Such a shame. I'm sure a great leader like Saul would have accepted this great offer without a doubt. Ja, da bin ich mir auch ziemlich sicher. My assistance will show you the way. Goodbye. Nicken und gehen. I returned to Sordland immediately. I felt relieved to be back in Holsort. Und wie sind die Beziehungen jetzt? Weiterhin neutral. Na gut. Weiterhin neutral. Was steht als nächstes an? Eine Rede über die Reformen. Das ist ja sehr spannend.